Hi and welcome to the podcast show Raise Your Vibe with your host Miriam Khan. Today I'm really honoured to have another guest on who's been on the show previously, Maggie Petraki. Welcome back to Raise Your Vibes. How are you, Maggie?
Thanks for having me back, Miriam. I'm very happy to be here. I've missed the sumptuous sound of your voice, and I'm really excited to talk about our major topic today, which is healing after a toxic relationship.
Yeah, I've missed you too. And I'm sure as we were just having a brief chat before the podcast, lots of things have happened. This is obviously the case when life happens and you start to move forward. Sometimes healing and that journey of healing, especially from not so nice relationships, such as abusive ones, narcissistic ones, mental, physical, financial abuse. I mean, the list goes on, doesn't it, Maggie, about how many different aspects there are out there. Would you agree?
Okay. Definitely. Oh, yeah. And there's so many things that you can do after you're actually done with that person.
Yes.
Because one thing's for sure, it's like a really rocky road. Like people on Instagram, they'll show their healing stories and they're on their best life and just sipping their margaritas or whatever and making it seem like it's so easy. But really, it's free. Let's be real.
No, let's be real. Initially, that healing journey for all of us, whoever's listening out there, is going to take time. Each person is going to have their own path of that. Correct? Would you agree with that, Maggie?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But there are definitely things that make it easier, let's say, and we can gladly go through the list that each of us have, because I'm sure you have quite a few things that helped you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things is looking at your close friendships, your healing circle firstly starts there because that is your main support network, your family, your friends. Some of us aren't lucky enough to have that. Or sometimes we have the similar, and we don't realize it, we have that similar toxic energy, similar to the partner around us as well. That makes it difficult to heal, doesn't it, Maggie? If you've had experience of that.
Definitely, yeah. And I was lucky enough to have family members around who were just welcomed me back with open arms and took really, really good care of me. But I can imagine there are a lot of people out there listening who probably don't have that. Yeah. Maybe they have good friends, but there's so many places you can reach out to. There's so many support groups. And I found a great community also just on Instagram, sending voice notes back and forth with people who basically went through the same thing. And it was very validating and healing at the same time. So really, there's always people out there who want to help you. It's just a matter of reaching out.
Yes. And sometimes, let's look at this topic of reaching out. When we've had these situations happen to us, often we can be a nervous wreck. Often we're very broken. If you've had physical abuse, there's not just the physical body that needs to repair, it's the mental abuse as well and the suffering that you've had. That takes a long time to heal, And God bless, there's so many people out there also with children involved in these very, very difficult circumstances. So sometimes, we selflessly don't put ourselves first because we're caring for others, Maggie, what would you think about that?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is there's a lot of feelings that come, a lot of toxic, horrible feelings that you have to process, yes. Especially in the beginning phase. And it's so freaking hard to navigate them. Yes. And what most people do is just numb the freaking crap out of them because you don't want to feel it. It feels bad. But what I realized as the number one most important step ever for healing is to feel them as much as you can, because it will help you literally process it. It sounds so obvious when you say it out loud, but you have to do it, because I say it also specifically in my case. I numbed all my feelings with alcohol in the beginning. Probably the first 2 years after my relationship, I was just drinking constantly, pretty much every day. The weekends were the best. I'd start drinking at 12 and then basically drink until the early morning hours, and I didn't want to feel the feelings. I didn't want to. It was too hard. And then one day it dawned on me that actually, oh my God, I am preventing myself from healing. This is really holding me back. And I took a really long break from alcohol. And all of a sudden I started feeling better. Amongst many other things that I was doing, but I think that was really the key. The number one most important thing that anybody can do to heal. Feel the feels.
Yeah. Some people do. And, some people end up just basically sitting there, bawling their eyes out, understandably so, because they're feeling that hurt and they're feeling that pain. Some people, like you've explained you used a particular liquid, to get through those particular situations, and whether we got drawn to alcohol or other substances, because there's going to be people listening thinking, I can relate to this. However, I did this instead. We all have different ways. I personally, I'm someone who doesn't cry. So for me, I'm similar to you, whether I numbed my feelings or just swallowed them down, because till the very end, I was still fighting. I was fighting through that divorce. I was fighting for certain rights. I was fighting. And I was exhausted. Just the process of the whole divorce itself was exhausting. And also you feel like you're not giving yourself a break. Eventually, when I was able to just switch off, one time in the morning, it was like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. I just woke up with this heavy feeling in my heart, and I just wept. And once I started, I just couldn't stop. And when I'm saying wept, I mean loud cries. I'm surprised I didn't disturb my neighbours at the time. But I'm being serious, because sometimes.
Yeah, no, but you have to. You really have to do that.
It was almost like a wolf howl, because all that pain and all that torture and all that everything you've kept hidden from the world, you're just letting it out, and it does sound like a wolf howl. When you're letting it out, that real long cry, and when
all the suppressed feelings you have to let out, right?
Yeah. Because I personally had tried to be so strong for so long. And for me to just let the barriers down and let my guards down and just be in that moment of being vulnerable. No one's there to witness it apart from potentially neighbours listening, right? But I just let it out. And when I did that, it felt like a purge to me. And that really did help. Obviously, I felt very weak throughout that day. I hadn't gone out anywhere. I wasn't planning to, but I just kept myself to myself, and just was trying to be kind to myself. So when my body was exhausted, allowing myself to sleep, allowing myself to relax. Sometimes when you're going through that healing process as well, sometimes you can't sleep. Some people take night nurse or whatever it is to help them sleep, because they're having nightmares, aren't they? Of recurring things happening or repeating a particular scenario over and over and over again in your head. I don't know if you had similar things to that as well, Maggie, when you were trying to heal yourself.
Oh, big time. I mean, I had nightmares of my ex-boyfriend for years, and sometimes I actually still get nightmares, if you can believe that. And it's 5 years out at this point. Yeah. Of course, they're much less frequent, thankfully. But I remember also being very paranoid the first few years and very stressed out and just like permanently anxious. And it was just horrible. Like it was really painful to go through. But there was a voice inside of me. And I think a lot of us have this voice that says, like, keep going, keep trying, like you can do this, And I think that's the voice that really got me through in the end. But one major thing that I realized was that I could not contact him ever again. I think that's really key, like keeping no contact with your ex, especially if they were super, super toxic. Don't even bother checking in with them to see how they're doing. Don't do it. It's so tempting. And I confess I did. I reached out to my ex 2 or 3 times after I left, and I kept it super short, and I regretted it every time. I realized, and this is a big one, he was never going to give me the closure that I needed, because narcissists just don't do that. And that's exactly what he was. He never wanted to give me that closure. And I realized that since it wouldn't be coming from him, I had to give it to myself through the whole healing process. Yes. You know what I mean? So I had to give myself the closure, essentially. And that's really hard, but doable.
Yes. Narcissists also, they want that feeling of power over you and control over you. And the fact that you'd gone back suggests that they've got something to dangle with, almost like you're in a poker game, You've shown your particular cards, and now they're going to show you theirs. And it takes a lot of guts to just walk away completely. It's not easy. Like I said to you, there's going to be people listening, Maggie, that have got kids involved. You know, they've got family ties involved, financial ties. I had financial ties. I had to take that responsibility for that. I still am. And it's not always easy to be in those particular predicaments, because sometimes you can't just cut a clean break, you know, or the part of you that is attached to them with your heart, you know, because let's be honest, love is one of those 4-letter words. It's very hard to let go, isn't it? You know, so sometimes it's not that we're a sucker, it's just that we believe, or we're brought up with that idea that this person will show the other side. This person probably had a rough day, a bad day, or they've had this, or we make thousands of different reasons in our head for the way that they're behaving. You know, they don't do the same for us, by the way. They don't show that empathy for us. Of
course not.
That's why they selected us.
Hell no.
Yeah, that's why they selected us in the first place. But, you know, you have to, like you said, you have to be the one that understands what your part was in that relationship. And part of what you've said is not just about letting go, it's also forgiving yourself. Taking that burden, you know, taking that burden away and just saying to yourself, hey, be kind, be gentle. You didn't know what you were really getting into, but you got out.
Exactly. And related to that, also, you shouldn't be afraid to admit what you've been through. A lot of people I find are afraid to talk about it. They're skeptical. They don't trust people anymore. But in fact, it is through talking that you heal as well. Like I found almost like naturally, I was like, I have to tell everybody about what happened to me. Like literal strangers. I would just like talk about the details of the abuse, how it worked, how it happened to me. I felt like I was like trying to save myself, but also trying to save others with the realization of that there are these horrible people out there who actually have no empathy and want to manipulate you and control you, you know? And I found that that was very healing. And of course, what should everybody do? Get a therapist. I certainly did. I'm still working with a therapist. And if that's not healing, I don't know what is. Like these people are trained to help you. They want to listen to you. They're non-judgmental, and you will like make leaps in your healing journey if you go to a therapist. Highly recommend. But that's just me. I know a lot of people are skeptical, but I would say just try it and see what happens.
I mean, counseling, therapy, you know, there's so many different ranges out there that you can go seek help with. Some relationships, they go and have relationship counselling, you know, they have therapy between the families. And obviously some occasions, before we've even got to this particular step, sometimes we just need it for ourselves. Now, some places, as you know, Maggie, you know, they charge an absolute fortune for that. Some places you have to be on a waiting list. Let's be realistic. You have to be on a waiting list for a very, very long time. Sometimes, as you said, you know, your friends, your close ones are the ones that understand you if you are fortunate and if you're lucky. And sometimes what you've done, I guess, in a way, is discussing your business with everyone. I think that's also like a trauma response sometimes, because you become like this tap that you can't switch off. And you keep talking about it because you want to be heard. You want to be validated. And not everybody's listening. Not everybody's empathetic. You've got this idea in your head, you want to go save everyone, but actually what you're doing is finding your voice and saying, hey, this happened to me, you know, and being heard. Because
also, I mean, you could also consider just writing your experience down.
Yes.
I found very early on that just like kind of brain dumping on a piece of paper helped me understand how I was feeling, so much so that I ended up writing a whole book about what happened to me. So like that really helped, like just kind of reliving all the experiences, like putting them down on paper, like moment for moment throughout all the years that I spent with the narcissist. It was so incredibly moving and healing. I cried so much while writing it. But man, was it a relief, you know? So if you can't afford therapy, or maybe it's just not for you, you can always write it down. And that is so powerful.
I mean, hopefully people can get the help that they need, you know, But what you're talking about is also like journaling, and it links to many other aspects that we have now. There's art therapy, there's not just the journaling, there's the mindfulness, there's the holistic, there's so many different holistic approaches that you can look at that are there to help others, but sometimes they're not always accessible. Sometimes, I know myself that if I'm back in the UK, you could be waiting 6, 7, 8 months to see a therapist. By that time, things might, because so many people, Maggie, are in need of help and support. So the waiting lists, as you can imagine, are a long time because, there's not that many therapists out there. You can imagine that with COVID, it's quadrupled because mental health now has become flagged up. Yeah. So some of the methods we have, they take a long time to be able to go and approach. Now, some people may be able to go and afford private counselling, private therapy, if they're financially able to do that, right?
Right.
That then relates to other aspects, whether we are going to put our mental health first. And that's why I'm saying to you that not everybody's going to be in that predicament. The method you've suggested, the journaling, the writing, the cathartic side, this is really good healing. Some people don't see it like that. And it's not something you have to, you decided to write your book about it, didn't you? And you got it published, which is amazing. But not everybody would be brave enough to do that either, because I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure even through writing that book and purging, there must have been occasions where you thought, oh, I shouldn't put this out there. I shouldn't put this out there. I shouldn't. And then you've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's making your whole life public to people. But I think for me, I was very open to sharing what happened with me to me. I think what I was most afraid of was the ex-boyfriend finding out. That was my biggest fear. And slowly but surely, I realized that, I had these really unrealistic fears of him coming to get me and kidnapping me and killing me. Like, I was so scared of him because he was so horribly abusive. But I realized that was just all the fear that he instilled in me. Yes. Really, he's actually harmless. That's what I realized. So putting out the book itself, I don't think I said the name yet. It's called Escaping the Egyptian Narcissist. Putting that book out was not that terrifying for me. At least from like talking about what actually happened to me, like that I was open to share from the get-go. Mm-hmm. But that's just me. I know that not everybody would be, open to discuss the ins and outs of their internal world, right?
Yes. Some people would be in very different places, of their mind, of their thoughts, and perhaps there's certain private things that happen to you in that particular situation that you've not shared with loved ones. So there's also that thought of judgment from society or close loved ones or people that know you, people that work with you, because there are some things they know that they don't know the whole truth. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course. And for me, it was, I use the word easy very loosely here, but it was easy for me because I got to leave the country that I lived in with my ex-boyfriend, which was Egypt. Yeah. And I got to go back home to Germany and just block everybody I ever knew that was connected to him. Yeah. So from that respect, it was much easier for me to move on. I can understand that for people who can't just pick up and go and leave their country, who live there and have stayed there, they have family and friends there, it's probably incredibly difficult because, yes. In a close-knit circle, like in Cairo, people really know each other, like there are these very close-knit groups and everybody goes to the same places at the same times, there's this very, just a close-knit circle. I can imagine that it's hard to escape that really. So that requires a different type of boundary setting and, gosh, I can't even imagine how difficult that must be. But at the same time, it's not impossible, I think, to heal, even if you're still in close proximity to the narcissist or your ex-boyfriend. I think whoever went through a toxic relationship is really strong and really resilient. And leaving shows that you really care about yourself and that you want to heal and that you value yourself. And that means if you're subject to I don't know, being, oh my God, in the same proximity as this person, God forbid, you can handle it. You're strong. And I really mean that whoever's listening, like, you can handle it. You're tough as nails. Don't you agree?
I agree. I really do agree. Yeah, there are obviously different aspects to people laying their different boundaries. And not everybody is able to do that successfully either, you know? Some of us, even when we're trying to heal, we keep giving other people, especially the ex-partner, husband, whoever it was, it could even be a family member, you know? We allow them to re-enter our lives, and we're not always good at putting boundaries up. So that's one of the first things I would say in healing, that we have to learn to say no.
Yeah.
But also, we have to learn how to say yes. So, for example, for me personally, I found it, and I still do, I find it very hard to accept help. I'm very stubborn, Maggie. It might shock you to learn this. I'm very stubborn. And also, I'm very...
No, like you, never.
Yeah, I'm very stubborn and I'm very independent. And for me to ask for help and say, hey, please, can you help me with this? Or can I have a bit of your time? You know, because I'm normally the one that people come to for help. So when the roles are reversed, and I'm a mama bear in many, many ways, so for me to ask for that is not easy. So you have to change your own personal mindset and be able to say, hey, I need 5 minutes with you. I need 10 minutes with you just to discuss this particular topic. Sometimes, you know, we're scared of that person or family member or whoever it is saying, no, you know, I haven't got time. And also, sometimes there are people that are judgmental as well. And it's the little things that they say that can hurt us too, that make us quiet or make us not open up. You know, for example, why did you marry that person? They were beneath you. Or why did you stay in that relationship? This you should have known when this first flag came up. And it's like, that's not helpful. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're making sensitive comments to you and you're still vulnerable. You're feeling raw. It's not what you need. Right? Can you think of situations like that in your healing?
I mean, I just want to point out the importance of the word no, like you mentioned. I think it's a particularly hard thing for people pleasers like us to begin with, to say no, because we just want to please people. We just want to make them happy, right? But it's extremely true after you leave a toxic relationship, because in my personal experience, my ex-boyfriend didn't permit me to use the word no, because if I used the word no, it would equal an adult tantrum on his part. If I said, no, like, I really don't want to go to that family event, it just doesn't make me feel comfortable, I'd rather stay home, the repercussions were just too intense. Like, he would be screaming at me and, you know, accusing me of not loving his family, accusing me of not loving him, and all this like exaggerated garbage that was so unnecessary. But when it happens so many times, you're conditioned to not use the word no anymore. You know, you're just a yes man all of a sudden. And I think that's really a key element in how this abuse works. You know what I mean? So that's why when you leave and you're on your healing journey, practice that word no. It is so great. And then when you use it so many times, you realize you actually have a lot of power, and you're not going to hurt people's feelings if you say no. If they're normal people, they'll just accept your no. You know what I mean? So, practice the crap out of no. It is so beautiful and magical. That's all I can say.
I mean, one of the words you've said is power, and it links to the next part of like healing is empowering yourself. This can come in very, very different ways. It can be from just looking after yourself. Now, all of us will have different, episodes. It might be that you allow yourself to go and have a shower. It might be you help yourself get out of bed. You feed yourself. Now, these might sound like simple things, getting dressed, but you can easily go down that route of depression, and you can go through really, really tough situations that you're not willing to be seen by anyone, you know? Some people isolate themselves. Some people do the opposite. They go out, they party 24/7. We're all
like me.
We're all different, aren't we, Maggie? Right? We're all different.
Yeah.
But allowing yourself to be kind to yourself and just nurturing yourself, That's not easy to do either. When you're in that situation, you don't want to. You want to just, some people just want to stay away from people in general. They don't want to associate. They don't want to be near anyone. They just want to be switched off, you know? And then there's others that deal with it in a slightly different way, where we go overdrive. There's no middle boundary here, because we're all going to do it differently, you know? But it's those simple things, and it's those simple things of healing, of looking after yourself, and slowly allowing yourself to be kind, you know? What advice would you give about that aspect of healing in those early days?
I mean, practicing self-kindness or self-compassion is so hard if you're used to being in a toxic relationship where someone tells you that you're worth nothing. Yes. I think we all know deep down that we are valuable and that we are important, each one of us individually. And I really think that practicing self-kindness is kind of like a muscle, you know, like you gotta train it. And it's not always going to be easy. Like you said, there's some days that you're super depressed. You don't want to move. You're just having a lot of toxic thoughts, a lot of negativity floating around. And that's fine. That's part of the process. Yes. But, you know, the next day you have to wake up and just try again with self-kindness. And there's so many things that you can do, even if it means you're just speaking to yourself in a compassionate, kind way, and just allowing yourself to, you know, recover slowly at your own pace. No one forcing you to do anything. You just do it in your own time, and trying to do the things that that kind of make you feel like you. And I think that's something that's really beautiful that happens when you leave a toxic relationship. You kind of rediscover yourself again, and you get to try the things that you used to do now. You know, like if you loved painting and you're, you know, in your toxic relationship, you gave it up. Pick it up now. Now's the time. You get to just enjoy the things that made you feel like yourself. Like for me, oh my God, there's so many things that I gave up because he basically forced me to. But for example, I used to play guitar and sing all the time. It used to be a daily thing for me. I used to play for hours, in fact. And when I got into the relationship with my ex, all of a sudden that just completely stopped. He would yell at me if I ever tried to play in public. He would just yell at me and roll his eyes at me when I was singing at home. And when I left and moved back to Germany, all of a sudden I found myself singing quietly, but singing. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot how great this feels. This is amazing, you know? And I started doing it all the time and became obsessive with it because it made me remember who I was. Yes. Somebody who had a personality, somebody who had lots of interests, you know? And there are a couple other things that I did that made me just feel great again. So I recommend that to anybody listening, just do the things that make you feel like you.
The singing and the guitar playing, I mean, it's a talent, number one. And if you're lucky to have a really lovely voice, which you have, I'm sure you have when you're singing, it's the fact that you are doing something independent, something that's bringing you joy, something that's making you happy, but you're also showing your different talents. And the narcissist doesn't want that. They don't want you to be, they don't want you to be showing your skills because they haven't got them. You know,
it's so true. I love what you said. It is so true.
So they do want to control that aspect because it makes them feel small, you know, and they want to dim your light further. These, you know, that's an important one. Some people, for example, going through healing, they might play music in a different way. Maybe you play music that helps you relax. Maybe it's classical. You might like really hard rock. Whatever it is that helps you. You know, I found meditation helped, prayer songs helped, random ones from all over. There were certain songs I couldn't listen to that triggered me, if I'm honest.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're the same. Certain sounds, certain TV shows, they would trigger me. Certain sounds I heard from people would trigger me. But there was some that I found healing as well. So some of you might be listening and thinking, you know, what can I do with that? There's a lot out there. In fact, I've done some, but mindfulness I found helped. Similar to what you were saying earlier about talking nicely to yourself, being kind to yourself. There is so much help out there. So some of you that aren't able to go and get a therapist, look at some of these things that are out there on YouTube and various other places that self-help. Maggie, was there anything else that you used that helped with the healing journey?
Yeah, I mean, I could, the list is endless really, because I tried a whole bunch of things, but I think the things that helped me most were definitely meditation, by far yoga. Those two, the combination, wow. I mean, it's so stereotypical, like, if you want to heal, do yoga and meditate. Yes, we all know, but have you tried it though? Because when you try it, you realize that it's very powerful. And after the first time, you may not feel the results, but if you do it just a few times, even if it's just like 20 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, you'll start realizing that it's just so calming and healing and wonderful, because you're basically just spending time with yourself in your body and enjoying that. You know what I mean? So like for me, that was so powerful. Plus, dancing. Oh my God. Because it's such a great form of expression, like self-expression. I love pole dancing. I have a pole in my house, in fact. I pole dance all the time. And especially after I left The Idiot, I was pole dancing literally every single day. Like it was like crazy, so fun. And recently I picked up hula hooping.
Awesome.
I literally got
working on your inner child then, by the sounds of it.
Sorry?
You're working on your inner child by the sounds of it, Maggie. Because, you know, when we're little, most of us do the hula hoop, but when we're an adult, we don't.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And it just lets you feel like so in touch with yourself and in the moment. And like my worries all just dissolve when I start doing those things. Like I just feel like I'm really in the moment, because I think it's very hard when you leave your toxic relationship. You tend to just be very like in your head, but like in a negative way, in like a toxic way. And you're just like kind of like anxious. So like you're racing ahead and you're thinking into the future and stuff. And you're just forgetting that actually the best thing about the healing journey is that you can just take it one moment to the next. Don't focus on the future. We shouldn't do that, generally speaking, actually, just like for life. Like, don't look too much in the future. The past happened, just like accept it for what it is and do your best to be in the moment. Again, stereotypical, but so true. And I'm a living proof of this, and so are you. Like, you just live in the moment. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, but it takes us a while to get there. And that's what Maggie and I are saying, that don't expect, you know, on your healing journey, it's not going to happen overnight. These things come at different paces, different time. Each of us are all different. But the thing is, you will get out of it. You will heal. It's just a matter of how and when. And each of us will take our own time, right? You know, sometimes we sit with that grief. Grief is another thing. We mourn the grief of that relationship. We mourn the grief of time that's passed. And we mourn who we were and who we were, you know, and we mourn the person we've lost, but also hopefully the person we found. I mean, it's lovely, Maggie, that you found the things that you loved again. You know, some people don't, do they? Some people don't find that aspect of themselves again for whatever reason.
They just need time. I think recovery is a really unpredictable process. For me, I happen to be a very positive person, a super optimistic person, but I know that not everybody's like that.
Yes.
But, you know, it's unpredictable. Some people, it'll take them years to find who they are again and what they love and what they can possibly enjoy, you know, to just get through life again. And that's okay. Like nobody should ever feel the pressure to like fast forward recovery. It just doesn't work that way. You have to be really, really patient with yourself.
Yes. And this is the thing, that this is the time that you are really learning who you are again. And you're learning to, and I've said this probably to you as well before, that you're discovering the good, the bad, the ugly, but the beautiful. And it's true, because you have to look at the skeletons in your own closet, and you have to look at you and who you are. And you do have to accept some of the things that you tolerated, but also you make boundaries, like you mentioned earlier, about where you're going to go next. Now, sometimes we can be very hostile too. In that healing journey, you know, people may come across and want to be part of your life, whether that's a relationship that you have. It could be a friendship, it could be a work relationship, whatever. Did you find yourself being very protective of yourself after this situation?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. I was terrified of falling into a relationship like that again. Terrified.
Yes.
Had nightmares about it. I didn't trust anybody. Frankly, I didn't even trust my family members. I didn't trust anybody at all. I was so careful. And plus I was going out on lots of Tinder dates because I just like wanted revenge and I hated, men, and I just wanted to like ruin them all and just like, just be angry and let out all my rage and stuff. And it was super toxic. But I realized something, that the reason why I didn't trust anybody was because I didn't trust myself.
Correct.
That was profound for me. The second I realized that, I was like, oh my God, I don't trust myself. That's why he broke me down to the point where I was just like a shell of myself. I didn't trust myself to make, life choices anymore. And that's why I don't trust people. How can I trust people if I don't trust myself? And to regain that, wow. I mean, that took a really long time. I only started trusting people, I think, very recently. And the only way for me to successfully achieve that was by surrounding myself with people who were really kind and compassionate and like the opposite of narcissistic.
Yes.
And when I realized that people can be trusted, takes a lot to gain my trust, but once I realized you can be trusted, man, do the doors open and let you right in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, that takes a lot of time, and I can imagine that a lot of people have trust issues. That it wasn't just me. And again, it comes down to patience and time and trusting yourself ultimately to make the right decisions, not just with relationships, but just with like life choices, right?
Yep. And what we have to understand is that, once you've come through, and a lot of it is trauma, people might not see it like that, but it is traumatic coming out through these situations and being able to stand your ground and speak your truth and say, hey, this is what happened to me. You do spot narcissists from a mile off. You agree with me there or not? Without
Oh my God. Of
like,
course. It's like everybody who goes through a narcissistic relationship has like the narcissist detector. Like
goes ding,
big
ding,
time.
ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it does. It does. And not just that, you will spot the ones that are covert narcissists as well. So there's many people out there that are hidden, or they don't just have to be a narcissist. They could be abusive, whatever it is that you just know. You just know. And your energy is almost like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you're around them. And personally for me, I could not stand being around negative people. And I could not stand, my body just could not tolerate that negative vibe. And I would know straight away, I just couldn't be in the room with them. Did you find yourself in a similar situation?
True.
Yeah? So
it's so true. Yeah.
And anyone that also, they would also try to either have a conversation with me or whatever it was. And this is where the yes and the no came in very, very handy. A lot of the times I would also stay silent, which is not like me either. But the silence spoke 1,000 words. But those sort of naysayers and they are energy vampires, I guess, as well. They wanted to just test the boundaries and see where you were at. And then what's funny was, after such a long period of time, these people kept trying to suck the energy out of you, to absorb whatever was left when I just had started to rebuild. And then what was beautiful I found was the genuine people, the kind people, like what you said, the people that are a similar vibe to you, they came along. But I had to really seed out the trash. I'm sorry to say that about people.
Yeah.
But it's true. The people that I didn't want to associate with, my energy had changed, so had theirs. And I couldn't be in those circles anymore. What about you, Maggie?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I weeded out the toxic people real fast.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was one of the first things I did. Like, as soon as I landed in Germany, blocked all the people in the narcissist circle, and not just his circle, my circle too. I had collected, some trash along the way, dare I say. And as soon as I identified who was like helping me heal and allowed me to be myself, that was a game changer, And I think that's also really key here. Like, if you feel like you can be yourself, like really, like completely yourself, the way you are, like around your family members, for example, like really close people, I'd say those people are safe. They're the safe type, because as soon as you feel like you have to hide parts of yourself when you're around people, that should be an indicator for you that something's up. Yes. Something's up with that. Why don't you feel safe with them? Because it's the only reason why we wouldn't want to show our true colors with people, right? Yes. We don't feel safe. We don't feel comfortable. So I would say keep an eye out for that. Your body will tell you. That's the beautiful thing. Your body will tell you if this is not comfortable. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Some of us choose to ignore those signs. And we do that because we're conditioned from that first set of abuse, and it's reprogramming, it's reprogramming ourselves and learning that we're worth of a lot more, and we should be all right to do that. Moving forward, sometimes we do heal, we do move forward, we do start again. And like I said earlier, all of us take that in different parts. But sometimes it's not always plain sailing. There are triggers that come as well. Did you experience that in your healing journey? Just when you thought, oh, things are great, did something come along that triggered you by any chance?
Oh, triggers. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, man, I was triggered constantly. Like something as simple as a loud sound. Yes. Like if someone banged the door, I would jump out of my skin. Yeah. It was like I was still walking on eggshells at times, or I'm not proud of this, but sometimes I would hear Egyptian Arabic because I'm based in Berlin, and it's very international. And back then I would hear Egyptian Arabic and I would get terrified. I was like, oh my God, is he here? Is he coming to get me? Yes. And of course he wasn't. They were just, they happened to be Egyptians walking by, and of course meant zero harm. Why would they come out to get me? They don't know me. But really, that was my irrational mind, still in kind of like fear mode. You know what I mean? So definitely, I think everybody will have triggers after leaving a toxic relationship. But if you can identify them and, rationalize them and work through them, they become less. And time is the greatest healer of all things. I really do believe that. So if you're afraid to handle them, time, as it goes by, it will slowly make these triggers less. I really do believe that.
Yeah. And it's the rationalizing, like you said earlier that you have in counseling. I'm sure that through the counseling and the therapy, they break it down in steps as why you felt that particular way, why your body reacted. It's, for those of us, for example, are scared of snakes or spiders. Sorry, trigger alert for those people that are scared of those as well. But if you have that fear, some of it is based on irrational fear. Some of it is based on legitimate fear. Some of it is a trigger that we've escalated ourselves, because you know yourself, Maggie, and I've discovered this working in the Middle East, that, for example, the example you gave about the Egyptian Arabic accent, not everybody's going to be able to decipher that. I personally now know the difference between Egyptian, Lebanese, Kuwaiti, Saudi. I can make the distinction before I couldn't, right?
Right.
So to someone else, they might just hear Arabic, whereas you could pinpoint it exactly. You knew which country. Do you know what I mean? So it's still, it's still a trigger because it's still a raw wound, and automatically you've gone into fight or flight mode, and panicked, and this is where our anxiety comes in. I had similar. Yeah. It was a certain word or phrase I would hear said in a particular way or said in a particular tone. Or, say, for example, if I reenacted something, like maybe I went to get a gift for someone or something that I was doing in my normal everyday life, and that person just said a small little phrase that repeated what the prior person had said, and that was it. And I was expecting the same result. So you don't realize that you're reliving that trauma again. You yourself are putting yourself back there. That person innocently has said something to you. Innocently, but you're triggered.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, for me, cyclical conversations were very triggering. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, if I'm having a conversation with my current boyfriend, and he'll repeat a question, or a third time repeat the same question, like maybe he didn't hear me or maybe he didn't understand me. I still get triggered by that. Maybe not to the same extent now than a few years ago, but really that was a huge trigger for me, because it was a tactic that my ex-boyfriend used to, gaslight me, confuse me, control me, manipulate me. And that's why my body, of course, reacts that way to that type of conversation, because it used to mean something for me. It used to mean that my power was being taken away from me. And my body's like, oh, we don't like this type of conversation. No. I'm going to react with anxiety, so you understand that you have to back away from this. Yeah. But really, now, it's just not the same situation, but my body's still like, watch out. And I'm like, body, I'm fine. This person's not dangerous. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of processing, really, and relearning potentially what I would call a habit, a really bad habit or trigger. Yeah.
And we can reprogram, and we can reheal, and we can move forward from these situations, because we've both said some of them take a long time. And each of those healing journeys hopefully does allow us to have beautiful relationships again, but firstly with ourselves. Some people don't. They jump, and everybody's different. Some people will jump from one situation to another, whatever that will be, because they're still trying to find themselves, and that's what makes this journey unique to each person. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. We're just mentioning between the two of us the different tools that we've both found. If you, just to summarize or to conclude, I guess, what would you say for anyone having gone through this would be the key things you'd wish you'd learned sooner?
Wow, I have one that pops straight into my mind. I wish I had learned sooner that after you leave a toxic relationship, you take a lot of really bad habits with you that you've learned along the way, right? So I could list a very, very long list of things that I did that I took with me after I left. And what I didn't realize is that I continued to do them for a reason. Yeah. I used them as a safety mechanism. They felt good for me. They felt like home, I deserve to feel this bad. I deserve to punish myself, and really it shouldn't have been that way at all. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was covering up my feelings with these bad habits. And what I should have been doing is practicing self-love and not, self-loathing, because that's really how I felt in the beginning. Loathe. It's a very strong word. And I didn't know that it was actually fairly easy to get rid of them once you realize that. And the key to that is to replace the negative behavior with the positive behavior. So, for example, the excessive drinking that I talked about in the beginning, that had to be replaced with something that was much more constructive. And for me, that was exercising, for example, or a really obvious one, getting rid of toxic people, but then you have to replace them with positive ones, And I don't know, for me, smoking, my God, I was a huge smoker, nervous smoker, toxic smoker, smoke all day long. It's 20 cigarettes a day, 30 cigarettes a day, depending. And I had to get rid of that. And I replaced it with many other things, and I think that is such an important concept that people have to be aware of, that you can't just get rid of the negative and then just expect the best. You have to be active in your healing journey. You have to be aware and keep thinking critically. Are you happy right now? What can you do to make the moment right now better? And what can I do to be the healthiest version of myself? And is that easy? No. Oh my God, I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. But if you're aware of that, it's going to really help you and push you forward.
Yeah. Addictions are not an easy thing to give up, You can go from one to another. I mean, you've listed quite several, there that people can relate to, because all those types of addictions, some people can't give up smoking, for example. Some people can't give up the drinking or the socializing, or they can't give up the toxic friends because they still want that part of being victim, not necessarily victimhood, or they want to feel those feelings. They don't see a way out. That comes from self-worth and self-love. That's a whole nother topic, Maggie, for another time.
Yeah. Hey, happy to dive in whenever. You know me.
Yeah. But these aspects do crop up. For me, I would say one of them is about organization or lack of organization. So, and this is something that happened in my personal space. So, for example, in my personal space, I had or used to have very, very organized wardrobes. Okay, so this sounds very, very silly, but you'll understand what the point I'm getting at in a little while. So my wardrobes used to be organized practically anally. They used to be color coded. They used to be from season and sections, and I organized it to the point where it was OCD. Okay, and to go from that to where I can't find anything. And things were not folded, things were left at the side, or things were not put back in their correct place. So you get to a point where your wardrobes end up a mess. Now, that might sound really, really silly to people listening, okay? But for me, this was a big sign of trauma. And it's still something I'm trying to get better with, okay? Because I personally can't, I get anxiety trying to reorganize and trying to take control, because part of me still feels like I haven't got control of that part of my life anymore. Now, I know that sounds stupid. I know it does.
It doesn't sound stupid at all. I don't think it sounds stupid at all. I think it's perfectly reasonable, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. So you get to a point where when I did the OCD thing, I was in control, I was organized, I knew where things were. You feel clear and calm in your head and in your mind and your body, because you know where things are. Yeah? It's not out of like being a control freak, because I have friends that are very anal. But then when you've gone from that to disorganized and not being in control, it resembles that. You feel disorganized in many, many ways. And I didn't realize through my divorce stage, it was only when a friend had come to my home, and she hadn't been for a long time, and came and noticed, for example, I started to accumulate certain things in a certain place, and I hadn't gone and put it back. So, for example, if I took a book from a bookshelf, I hadn't gone and put it back there. It stayed there for a long time. Simple little things like that. And it was my mind, and it was my way. It wasn't because I was lazy. It wasn't because you can think of 1,000 reasons and excuses. But in my particular mindset, it wasn't important to me anymore. And whether I just let go of control, or I just had got to the point where I was like, this is not important to me anymore. It was very easy to put things back. It's very easy to go put it back on a bookshelf. But instead, it would accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. So that, go on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, it just goes to show how coming out of abuse, it can manifest its way into your life in the most incredible ways, and seemingly small ways. But in your world, that's a really big deal. For me, I would have never thought of that, never noticed that, because that's not a particular thing that happened to me. But wow, it's amazing how we cope, coming out of a really bad relationship. It's incredible.
Yes. And for all of us, it's different ways. We end up not realizing the little things around us take anxiety, takes us time, it brings back different feelings as well, because you feel like you're in control, you're not in control. So, people have different ways of looking at that, but that's my personal one. And I'm slowly getting to terms and grips with that. And it took a friend to help me and sit down and say, hey, you've got an issue, and I think you should do this. Yeah. And I'll be honest, it took me several months to address it. I'm being honest. Now, whether that's because I'm a Taurus, I am stubborn, and I'm a Taurus. But yeah, it took a long while for me to say, hey, this person's right. Now, normally when I listen to someone's opinion, straight away I'll tell you, yes, no, But because this was such a personal thing, then it took me longer to really look at it and really step back and deflect. And I am on that journey of still organising things and reorganising things. I'm normally someone, by the way, that does a spring clean. Like every couple of weeks, I will pull out the wardrobes normally, you know. I would have pulled out everything. Anything I haven't worn, I go give it to charity. So for me to be in that situation where, you know, I've left something here, I've left something there, and it's you can see it. You know, the same book has been sat on the sofa, a chair or table, you know, for months, and I haven't moved it. That to me is why you're doing that. You could easily just go put it back on the shelf. I haven't. Why? What's the reason? Why am I not putting it back? Why have I just let it sit there? Why have I then put things on top of it? Why have I let more books? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, that's tough. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that and probably can think of their own, habits that they have or things that they can and can't do right now, because, you know, healing from abuse can be debilitating at times, you know, and I think the most important thing is being aware of that, which you clearly are, you know, and that's the first step then to kind of navigating it and hopefully healing it and you know, getting back to your OCD ways. I'm not sure if that's the best thing either, but you know what I mean.
I managed recently to redo the OCD with the kitchen. So the kitchen now has labelled tins facing the front, all in the right way, in the right pattern. Yada, 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 but one step at a time, you know? Somebody might be listening to this and thinking, well, that's actually over the top either, you know? Just to conclude before we finish, we all have very different ways of healing. And, you know, Maggie and I, we're not saying we're experts. We're saying this is our experience, this is our view. We're still, I mean, you're 5 years on. I'm nearly 1 year and so many months into healing, you know? And all of us react different ways, don't we? We all have different aspects of the way we look at it. So this is something that we both decided, didn't we, that this was a podcast that needed to be done because there are people still in different healing aspects, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And I would just say, you know, we are very thankful for those of you that are listening in and that have listened to this podcast, because it's been a long one, but a good one and a rewarding one. I'm sure Maggie and I are going to connect base again another point. But Maggie, thank you for being in on the show again. We appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure.
And I will put Maggie's books details on there. Maggie was previously on a podcast, so if you are listening in, it was a long while back, Maggie. Was it over a year ago, would you say?
Oh yeah, it's been too long, frankly.
Yeah, been too long. So probably over a year ago, Maggie did a podcast then. So if you're wanting to re-listen to that one, please do so. It'll be on the Buzzsprout feed. And we've both enjoyed talking about this healing journey. And I personally just want to say to whoever's listening, you know, be kind. Don't be rushing. We're still healing in many, many different ways. Some of these things you never get over. Some you do. Maggie, what would you like to say?
I think one super important thing that you can do is focus on your resilience.
Yes.
Coming out of a toxic relationship, you should do your best. It's so hard, but try not to think of yourself as a victim, but rather as a strong person that's now able to focus on themselves and their needs. You know, like, you're a survivor and the relationship was tough and it sucked and it was debilitating and horrible, but it doesn't have to define your life. Yes. Like, there's life after abuse, you know? And I think you should just carry that hope with you, and it will start looking up. We're living proof of it. You can do it too, to whoever's listening. I believe in you.
But it starts with you, right? It starts with you. It starts with your journey, and it starts with you loving yourself. So don't be one of those people that throws yourself into something else. Start with healing you first. And, you know, Maggie suggested the counselling and the therapy, as well as close friends. There's many, many things out there. And from the both of us, we wish you the best in your healing journey. Thank you, Maggie, for being on the show again. I've really appreciated it. I'm sure we won't leave it as long as a year this time.
Hopefully.
Hopefully not.
And just one more thing that I'd like to add.
Sure.
my book as well, Escaping the Egyptian Narcissist, is a huge resource as well. A lot of people have read it and have come to me with amazing feedback, telling me that it's given them the validation that they need and the motivation to keep going. So if you'd like to have a look at that, it's on Amazon. And plus, you can always find me on Instagram. I love when people write to me. I'm always happy to help. It's _Maggie_speaks. And I promise you I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Plus, Miriam, I forgot the big news. There's big news.
Go on, what's the big news?
Which is that I got several inquiries about whether I'll be publishing a hardcover edition of my book. And I'm happy to announce for the first time ever on your podcast that I will be launching a hardcover this year.
Awesome.
And I'll be posting about it on Instagram. So just stay tuned. It's coming. And I can't wait for it to be out.
Awesome. We wish you all the best. I'm sure it's going to be a great success. We wish you all the best with that.
Thank you so much.
Because these types of books need to be out there, don't they, for self-help for others. So that's awesome,
Definitely.
Maggie. Absolutely awesome. All those details of how you can get in touch with Maggie and how to purchase a book will be in the bio feed. So please feel free to click on the links and get in touch with her one way or another. Maggie, you've been an absolute blessing. Thank you so much for being on the show again. Let's not leave it as long as, a year. Let's try and touch base a little bit more frequently.
Definitely.
And let's try and do more podcasts because I'm sure more people want to listen in. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. So we wish you all the best in your healing journey. This has been Miriam Khan and... Come on,
Maggie Petraki.
Thanks for listening for Raise Your Vibes. That's all for now.